Hi there, Dr. Andrea Shanowski from Freedom Chiropractic and Holistic Health Center in the Peoria Metro Center and our YouTube channel, Health and Horsepower. This week, I want to talk to you about immunity hacks that your doctor is not telling you. I feel like so many times as we head into the winter months, cold and flu season, a lot of people get sick, but there's also a lot of other factors that we have to think about and do some things to reduce exposures or try to change some of our habits so that we are in a better place to prevent sickness and also staying healthy this winter season. So, one of the first and most important things that we have to realize is that stress in your life, in your body, can cause and impact your body's healing ability and your immunity as well. So, when you're under chronic stress, that is actually going to change your hormones, it's going to change your digestion, and it's going to actually lower immune function. So it's very important to make sure that you are doing as much as possible to reduce stress levels. I know that's hard to say and hard to do because a lot of times we are still dealing with work. We're still dealing with financial issue. We're trying to buy things for the holidays and Christmas and make sure that we have everything we need for our families. And sometimes we have family members that are visiting that can also be quite stressful. So you have stressors going on in your life, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. However, we need to make sure that we're taking some time for self-care. Last month, we talked about self-care and making sure that you have good relationships with your significant others or family members as much as possible. But we also need to understand that stress can come from within our bodies as well. If we're not eating regular meals, if we are eating food that is very sugary or not really having the best nutritional quality, that can cause issues where we can lead to nutritional deficiencies that can also lower and reduce your immune response. Also, another thing to think about is if you have chronic health issues, if you have arthritis, if you have joint pain, if you have any health conditions that are impacting how you feel, those actually cause inflammation and stress in your body that can also manifest and lower immune function. So it's very important to make sure that number one, reduce your stress levels outside of your body. Number two, reduce your stress levels inside your body by eating healthy and getting your joints and spine taken care of on a regular basis. For some patients that are dealing with arthritis, I do recommend anti-inflammatories, natural versions like quercetin, or even the glucosamine chondroitin MSM to help with joint pain and arthritis specifically. But it's also really important to make sure that you are correcting and keeping your posture healthy. That means that we are sitting up straight as much as possible. We're trying to avoid slouching. I know a lot of times if you're visiting family for the holidays, you're not always sleeping on a bed. Sometimes you've got a pull-out or a couch or a cot or whatever you may be sleeping on. You want to make sure that you are stretching your spine and your joints out when that's over with, and also make sure that you are doing exercise regularly to stay active and stay mobile, because the more your joints move, the less arthritis is going to form. So it's very important to make sure that you keep your joints moving. Another thing to think about is sleep quality, and not just nighttime sleep, but also making sure that you have proper daylight exposure. So as we get into the winter months, you may have heard of seasonal affective disorder, where basically as we get into the darker days where the daytime and light is shorter, a lot of people experience depression. Part of that is due to vitamin D issues. Part of that is due to not getting enough sunlight. So for those of you that tend to notice you're a little bit more depressed or your moods are a little bit more unstable during the winter or the darker days, I would recommend making sure that you are getting out in the sunlight. You have possibly even a UV or like a vitamin D light that you're taking in. I usually say about 20-30 minutes a day minimum. Another thing you can also do is look into red light therapies as well for another option to make sure you're getting some light exposure to help your cells with some of that energy conversion. And I mentioned nutrition already. A couple things that can be really helpful. So biggest thing that I see is when we have immune function issues, vitamin D and vitamin C and zinc are kind of the big three that I recommend making sure that you have coming in your body. You want to make sure you're getting at least 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. Ideally, you want to make sure that that is a high quality, not a synthetic, because a lot of vitamin D out on the market is synthetic. It's made from corn, which means it's inflammatory, and that's not what you really want. You want to make sure you have a high quality buffered form of vitamin C that is not from a synthetic source or not from a corn source. There's many different forms of that. Ascorbic acid is usually one that is synthetic. So if you're taking a vitamin C that's just ascorbic acid, you want to make sure you do some research on the company, because if it's synthetic, not really going to help you that much. Vitamin C also is water soluble, so you want to make sure you're getting plenty of water with it. I usually recommend doing like a half dose, so like 500 in the morning, 500 later in the day, so you space it out with plenty of water so it doesn't upset your tummy and go straight through you, and that can be very uncomfortable. When it comes to vitamin D, I usually recommend getting your vitamin D level checked before you get into winter and then again in springtime. Vitamin D range, usually around 30 to 100 is the standard lab test value. I usually say you want to aim for like 45 to 50. So if you are just above 30, I would recommend doing a higher dose to get that up. If you are already at 45, 50, then we want to do kind of a maintenance dose throughout the winter. Typically, it depends on the type of vitamin D that you're taking as to what that maintenance dose or that dosage to increase that would be. I do find a lot of patients are taking vitamin D supplements that are in pill form. Vitamin D is fat soluble, so it does need to be absorbed with a fat. It also needs to have a vitamin K with it to absorb properly as well. So I usually recommend making sure you have a liquid form of vitamin D that is already in a fatty acid and it has a vitamin K1 or K2 or both inside of it to help make sure we increase absorption. I've had a lot of patients that were taking 50,000 units of vitamin D and their levels were not just going up. We switched them to an active form and took like a quarter of that and their levels went up our next test in like 8 to 12 weeks. So that can really make a big difference as to the type that you're getting. The other thing that can also be really important is zinc. I usually recommend that we're getting at least 30 milligrams of zinc on a daily basis. That is enough to support immune system and hormone balance. If you have hormone balance issues or you tend to have immune issues, you may need more than that. But I usually say 30 milligrams is a good dosage in general for most people to be taking. If you have any questions or you want to sit down with me in the office or on a virtual call to talk more about what we can do to help support your body or even some tinctures that you can add into water on a daily basis to keep your immune system strong, please give my office a call. Our number is 309-689-6200, or you can go on our website, freedompeoria.org, and request an appointment. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you again next week.